This is Mr. Arbuckle, and I will be reading chapters 11 and 12. An interesting fact about me is that I've been raising pigs my entire life, so this is kind of cool that this book you guys get to hear for the One School, One Book. So here's chapter 10. Flora felt a quick arrow of sadness stab her. This was no run in the cornfield. Mother, Alfred, would she ever see her family again? If she had a howl in her, this would be the time to let it out. All she could do was squeal. The air inside the truck was warm. It was filled with the smell of dog and gasoline, and the sound of barking was now deafening. The truck growled deeply and moved with a lurch. Flora was thrown against the metal grid of their cage. Judging from the yelps around her, so were the traveling companions. The barking stopped. Flora picked herself up as the truck crunched along the gravel road. It vibrated and shook and went over heavy bumps now and then, which made it hard for Flora to keep her footing. She kept knocking her head. Then, after the bone-cracking heave that lifted every cage into the air and slammed them back down, the ride smoothed out. Flora was definitely scared, but she had picked her moment, and she had shown spirit and courage. Luna would be so proud. Luna! Flora didn't even get to say goodbye. Flora looked around her cage. A dirty, crumpled blanket lay on the floor, and two metal pans were upturned. There might have been water in one of them until the big heave. Now there was just a wet spot on the corner of the blanket. Beside the other bowl were 2 carrots and half an apple. If only Alfred were here with her. No. It was a good thing her little brother was safe in his pen. Of course, Luna would be just fine. She was happiest telling stories, except now she would have to find someone else to listen to them. Daylight flashed in through the corners of the canvas sides. In the flashes, she caught glimpses of the dogs. She watched as some of them circled inside their cages before lying down. There were perhaps 10 or 15 altogether, and they didn't seem afraid or worried. Oscar, she said. It was the only name she knew. Is Oscar here? She said louder though she doubted anyone could hear over the truck's roar. There was no answer. Whether these dogs were from a farm or not, Flora was sure she was the only pig. Judging by how hard the men had worked to catch her, or one of her brothers, there must be a need for a strong, fast pig on this adventure. No pig on the farm was stronger or faster than she was. The drone of the wheels made Flora sleepy. She circled on her blanket, and she had seen the dogs do, and then flopped down. Boom! Flora's eyes opened. Crash! Thunk! She scrambled to her feet. The truck had stopped moving. Men were shouting to one another. The flap at the back of the truck suddenly opened, and light poured in. 2 men reached into Flora's cage, lifted her out, placed her on solid ground. She rocked a bit, getting used to the feel of the steady surface again. Hands fumbled around her neck, buckling up a leather collar and then chaining it to a short post. The dogs were lifted from the truck one by one, still inside their cages. Then the truck roared away louder than ever. At first, Flora had trouble opening her eyes. The world was too bright, but by squinting, she slowly got used to it. The dock was busier than a pig full of piglets and noisier than a truck full of dogs. Men in heavy boots stomped here and there. They carried, rolled, and pushed boxes and barrels from one pile to another. A ship with a thundering engine pulled alongside the dock. Waves sloshed as the men tied the ship down as if it were a living thing that might escape. On top of the post sat a white bird staring at her. "Hello," said Flora. The bird squawked and flew off. Flora turned her head in one direction. There were piles of boxes and crates and cages. She couldn't see inside any of them. In another direction, there was nothing but blue sparkling water. This had to be the ocean, Luna described. Who would have thought Flora would someday be here, listening to the waves and actually seeing them and the smells? Luna had told her about the fish smell, or the smell of the oily dark wood that she was standing on. Plus, there was the smell of garbage, and of course the salty sea. A manure pile smelled fresh and clean compared to this, but Flora liked it. To her, it was the smell of adventure. "Slide out the gangplank," a sailor bellowed. A great board banged down from the ship onto the dock. Soon the men were filing up it, carrying barrels and boxes. Crash! Flora jumped. A large wooden box had slammed to the ground behind her, almost crushing her tail, but the men didn't seem to notice or care. Only the ringing of the big bell finally made them stop and look around. They seemed to relax and breathe easier, and they addressed one another for the first time that day. Lunch boxes appeared in strong hands, and men sat in small groups. They tore at their sandwiches as Flora watched. That was better. Now Flora could think, maybe even talk to someone. She took a dainty step. Her chain was just long enough that she could see into the cage. The eyes that looked back were soft and blue with black in the middle. Flora blinked. It was Oscar from the farm. She didn't remember him being so large, nor that she had strictly black and white fur. He blinked back when he saw her. Flora cleared her throat. "Good morning. It's nice to see you again. You're Oscar, right? My name is Flora." The dog blinked again. "That's right, I'm Oscar. Good morning." Oscar had a deep, smooth voice. Flora hoped he would feel like talking. "Do you know what happens next?" Oscar looked over at Flora. It wasn't an unfriendly looking over, but slow and thoughtful, as if he weren't sure he should be talking to a pig. "Yep. We get on a ship and we sail away." "That ship?" asked Flora. "That's it." Oscar flipped his nose towards the ship tied to the dock. "The Explorer." "The Explorer?" A thrill went from Flora's shoulder down to her hooves. This sounds exciting. "And what is it we'll be exploring?" Oscar sat up. "We're going to be the first expedition ever to cross the Antarctic. I've already been there. To get ready for the journey, I went with a team months ago to make food drops." Flora was confused. "But didn't I see you on the farm that day I escaped my pin?" Oscar raised his eyebrows. "Oh, so that's why you look familiar." "Yes, that was me. When I'm not leading the team, I train young dogs. Only this time, you'll be pulling a sled, right?" "Yep, that one over there." Flora looked. Resting on the cement platform was a wooden sled with curved runners, sweeping diagonal frame pieces, and a long, narrow bed for carrying a load. Flora imagined dogs pulling it over the snow. It looked nothing like the cart with wheels back at the farm. "Wow," she breathed. "It was fast." "Depends on the strength of the team." No wonder the men grabbed her. They really didn't need a strong, fast pig. Flora waited for Oscar to say more, but he was silent. She tried to think of a question to get him talking again. "Do you like being a sled dog?" she asked. "Well, that's like asking if birds like to fly. Being a sled dog is what I was born to do," said Oscar. "You have to be willing to work hard and get cold and tired. You have to be just a little bit crazy, but at the end of the day, you know, you got the pulling done and you earned your supper. There's no better job on earth." Flora was enchanted. She tried to imagine herself running ahead of the team while they were acting just a little bit crazy. "When we get to the Antarctic, do you think you could show me a few things about being a sled dog?" she blurted out. Before Flora could even hear the answer, the other dogs burst out with a great barking and snarling and even began digging and biting at their wire doors. Flora looked around, heart pounding. What could be the matter? Chapter 11. The reason for the excitement was a small orange cat. Walking with its back arched, the cat stared into each cage as if seeking the insults and threats flying her way as though they gave her power. She stopped in the front of Oscar's cage. Oscar did not bark. The cat licked her chest twice. "Cat attack," she said, and gazed at Oscar, daring him to lunge. He didn't move. Flora was impressed. Clearly Oscar was a born leader with too much self-control to carry on like a common barnyard dog. And here was someone else to talk with. She cleared her throat. The cat looked over. "Hello," said Flora. "Pleased to meet you. My name is Flora, and This is my new friend Oscar. The cat walked around Flora, slowly viewing from every angle. Nice chain you got there. What kind of joke is a pig anyway? You're like the mammal version of a frog. No hair, no claws, no horns. No attack weapons, no defense. What's the point? How rude. And Flora wanted to tell this cat so, but she wanted her question answered even more. So she said maybe frogs have qualities that make them up for not having those other things. Pigs are known for their spirit. Spirit, oh yeah. That makes up for everything. The orange cat walked in front of Flora's face, and her fluffy tail brushed Flora's nose. If you ever get attacked, you can lash out with your spirit. Flora wasn't sure what to do in the face of such unpleasantness. Still, she had so many questions. Are you part of the team? Team? The cat back arched again. The cat is never part of a team. A cat is a team unto herself. A cat hardly knows the meaning of a word team. A cat looks down on, Oscar growled. It was low and soft, but it stopped the cat from continuing. Never mind then. I'm Sophia. Sophia is the sheriff of the dock. Sophia is the terror of mice and the killer of rats, and she works alone. By the way, have you seen any? Any what? Flora asked. Rats. No. That's right. This dock is rat-free zone thanks to the weaponry that others can only dream of. Sophia flexed one set of her claws. Have you ever heard of the killer instinct? Of course you have. And Sophia's reputation alone is enough to keep the vermin away. Flora hadn't heard of the killer instinct, but she didn't let on. If your work here is finished, perhaps they have work for you on the Explorer. You could be very useful. Oscar's a sled dog, and I'm ready to help in any way I can on our adventure. Heavens no, said Sophia. I wouldn't be caught dead on a ship. Cats don't like going on adventures, taking orders, or crossing over water. She shuddered. Flora thought back to what put Luna in a good mood. Your fur looks very soft and clean. Sophia sat down, lifted a front paw, and licked it. Flora tried again. Maybe you could tell us what you've heard about the Explorer and the crew. Sorry, Sophia wishes. She could stay and chat, but she's gotta. And just then, a shadow fell on the company of three, and they looked up. A skinny boy had walked over to them. He glanced around, then sneaked a bit of bread and cheese out of his pocket and stuffed it into his mouth. Sophia rubbed up against his legs. He bent down and stroked her back. Sophia winked at Flora, arched herself into his hands. The boy looked at Oscar. Hello, big guy. He gently stroked the paw that was sticking out from under the door of the cage. Oscar put his head close to the wire and received a good scratch behind his ears, causing him to half close his eyes. Are you ready for an adventure? The boy asked. Oh, how Flora loved that word, adventure, and how she wishes those hands were scratching her ears. As if he could read her thoughts, the boy stood up, took a step over to where he sat, and a pig, he said, squatting next to her and running in his hand down her back. Flora wasn't sure if she should lean on him the way Sophia did or just sit still, as his fingers scratched a spot behind her front left leg. Flora collapsed on the ground and grunted in pleasure. A pig, a cat, and dogs. This ship is a zoo, said the boy. Sophia rubbed against him, not used to being ignored, and then jumped into the boy's arms, making him stand up and laugh. I bet you'd like to be my cat. Flora grunted again. This cat wasn't even going on the ship. She wished she could tell him that. Just then, the bell started ringing. The men hurried by stuffing their last bites of sandwiches into their mouths and wiping their hands on their pants. Hey, Ellert, someone yelled. The boy set Sophia down. Get your skinny behind over here and take these boxes to the hold. Nobody sails on this boat for free, you know. Flora felt her chest filling with pride. Just as she thought, they had an important job in mind for her. Nobody sailed for free. The boy scurried over to the pile of boxes and lifted one. It looked heavy. What's a hold? Asked Flora. It's the bottom of the boat, said Oscar. That's where they put anything they don't want to think about until they need it. Alaric staggered into the ship through a dark doorway and out of sight. The three animals watched him go. Flora was afraid Sophia might decide to leave too. "I think I like you," she said. Or, "I think he liked you," she said. Sophia licked herself. No one can resist a cat. "What's your secret? Too many questions, sister?" Sophia's tail twitched as she began to walk away. "Wait," Flora called. "Just one more." Flora paused. Flora rushed on before the cat could change her mind. "You've watched ships leave these docks before, right?" "Hundreds," said the cat. "Then you probably tell me, why am I going on this ship? Do I have a job?" "What's my job?" "Oh, you have a job," said the cat. "No extras here. On an expedition, everybody has a purpose." She turned to go, but some purposes are better than others. "Hey, what's that supposed to mean?" "Sheriff needs to be off on her rounds. Goodbye for now," Flora called after her. Or for forever. Sophia disappeared between two barrels. "Well," said Flora to Oscar, she's kinda interesting and a little mysterious." Oscar raised his eyebrows and blinked. "Pretty much stuck up and all about herself, if you ask me. But she's a cat, so what you gonna do?" "Oscar, I want you to know, if I can help you in any way, I would be a hard worker, a good team member, and I never complain. And in case they separate us and I don't get to talk to you, I want to say, right now, good luck." Once again, Oscar looked Flora over. She couldn't be sure, but he seemed a little bit sad. Then he rested his head on his paws. "You be careful." "Sure, you too," Flora nodded. Thanks to Luna, she was ready to land on her feet. If only someone would tell her about her job, it would make it a lot easier to prepare. After the hours of truck noise and a day of dock bustle, night floated down as soft and quiet as a bird's feather. All that could be heard was the gentle splashing of waves. Flora felt as though she might be the only one, awake. She looked up into the clear night sky. There they were, stars. She had no idea there were so many, and they doubled themselves by reflecting off the water. Some were bigger and brighter than others, and they almost blinked if one watched them long enough. "Eyes watching over me," thought Flora. Her mind went back to her mother and brothers on the farm. For a moment, she missed the cozy pig pen and her family. She imagined her brothers sleeping on one another for company. She hoped Mother and Alfred were together again. Maybe Luna was looking up at the same stars. Flora wondered if her friends missed her at all. As she fell asleep, Flora thought of what Luna had told her about snow. She dreamed that the Antarctic snow was falling. The team was struggling to move the sled forward. Paws were slipping. All around her, dogs were stumbling. Only one sled puller had any traction, the one with hooves. Hike.